Well, hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Eek Acres. In this video, I wanted to talk about a common sense approach that I believe would solve the issue that happened the other night from ever happening again, to where at least you wouldn't have this specific type of accident from ever occurring again. And I'm talking about where a U.S. military aircraft makes contact with a civilian aircraft. Now, I've heard where they claim that this airport in Washington, D.C. is the busiest one in the United States of America. I cannot confirm if that's true or not because I'm not an aviation expert. I don't know a lot about airports, but let's go with that and say that this is the most busiest airport in the United States of America. If that is true, then I don't understand why they're making this particular airport more dangerous by allowing U.S. military aircraft to share an airspace with civilian aircraft. I think that's something that needs to be stopped. If I was Donald Trump, I would sign an executive order. This is how you could fix this problem. Sign an executive order to where all airports nationwide, especially here in the lower 48, has restricted airspace where the military cannot enter that airspace around immediate airports, just like they have on U.S. military bases. They have restricted airspace over United States air bases to where civilian aircraft cannot enter and fly over or through this restricted airspace. If they want us out of their airspace, they should stay the hell out of ours. That's how you fix this problem. This airport, you guys, has got a lot of traffic, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day to deal with. And to be fair to the air traffic controllers, whether they're capable or not, I'm sure that they're capable of doing the job. The problem is, you guys, is they're dealing with so much fixed wing aircraft coming in on a regular basis, both private and commercial, public aircraft, to where the job is stressful enough. And then you add in all these G.I. Joe missions flying along the Potomac River, and that just adds to the confusion. These pilots that are flying these commercial airliners are doing their job. These are people that are highly trained. They're flying based on their instruments and what ground control is saying to them, telling them what altitude to come in at, what trajectory to come in at. All this to where they're on their flight pattern and they're on schedule doing their job. But they can't do their job if you've got this military base nearby conducting these needless, in my opinion, operations in the black of night, to where they don't have to follow the same rules as these commercial airline pilots do. To where they can get away with just flying based on visuals. Visuals. That's crazy. That's like no harder than driving a car. Just watch out for the other cars. Don't run into the other cars. They should have to fly using the same exact principles that these commercial airline pilots are having to go by. They should be using instruments to help avoid with a crash, not just turning stuff off and then just flying under visuals. That's how you avoid this problem, at least from this type of accident from ever happening again. You're always going to have aviation accidents, just like you're always going to have car accidents and accidents in general. Life is imperfect. You can't stop bad things from happening. But this tragedy was needless. It didn't need to happen. And they're wondering who is exactly at fault, and they're not going to know until they do the investigation, when it's clear in the video that this plane was coming in on its course that it was supposed to be on, and this helicopter flew right into this plane, causing the demise of both parties to go into the river. This pilot's error killed a lot of people, because this military base is flying into a heavily congested air traffic area. If they need to do missions on a river, do you know how many rivers there are in the lower 48 that they could be flying missions on, where they could get the same kind of training without being in the way of civilian aircraft? I don't even know why they're allowed to do such things. They've got a big red rectangular area over the base near this airport where it's restricted airspace and no one's allowed to breach that airspace. They don't want us in their airspace? Stay the hell out of ours. This is what I wish I could tell Trump. This is what I wish I could talk Trump into, is signing an executive order to where all U.S. military, no matter who they are, cannot enter into civilian airspace within a certain perimeter that's cordoned off around all U.S. airports, with the exception to where if there was a national emergency in this country for whatever reason that they would need to commandeer an airport and use it for military operations, then that would be an exception. Then they could have full use of any airport that they need to commandeer for U.S. missions during a national emergency. But outside of that, doing any type of routine training or just flying through the airspace, they should be kept out. They should absolutely be kept out. Because I think what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You don't want us in your airspace, stay the hell out of ours. There's no reason why you need to complicate things more by being in our airspace when these people at these airports have to deal with so many different planes coming and going, flying at close proximity to where they're just minutes apart from departure and landing, and making their job much, much harder. And then on top of it, they got to look out for these dipshits flying these helicopters doing G.I. Joe missions down the Potomac River. I think it's nonsense. I really think it's nonsense. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in the United States military to where it needs to be looked into. And I wish Donald Trump would look into the practices of what's going on in the United States military, because I can't tell you guys how many times I was living here that we've had C-130s flying over this house at treetop level. Unsafe, low altitude, right over the treetops here, shaking the house, 2 of them flying very low to where if anything went wrong in that plane, there'd be no time to correct the mistake. There'd be barely any time to react to any problem that they had in a plane flying at that altitude. So these young pilots today are screwing off, acting like dipshits, using these highly sophisticated and very, very expensive machines at the cost of the U.S. taxpayer, and utilizing it like it's their own personal vehicle. My uncle, God rest his soul, when he was alive, he fought in World War II. He was an Air Force pilot. And for the last part of his life in retirement, he was a C-130 flight instructor, pilot instructor. He taught these young upcoming pilots how to fly these big planes that have been flying at treetop level over this house, shaking the house as they fly real low. And I wish he was still alive so I could ask him what the hell these pilots are doing. Because the military, when they get in there, they get cocky just like a new cop on the force. They act like they're invincible and they can do whatever the hell they want. And I really think that it's time that the United States government looks into it and deals with these people. The pilot that was flying that helicopter, that Black Hawk, clearly did not see the plane that the tower was asking him if he had visuals on the plane. And he says, yes, I do have visuals on it, but he wasn't looking at the right plane. He wasn't seeing the plane that the tower was talking about, and he flew right into it. How the hell on a clear night you don't see a big airliner coming at you is beyond me. But that person's fatal mistake not only ended their own life, but it took a lot of people with him or her, whoever was flying that helicopter. And it's just a shame. But it could have been avoided if they just put a stop to U.S. aviation equipment being shared in civilian airspace. If we can't share the space with the military, they shouldn't be allowed to share the space with us. That's what needs to change. That's what needs to stop. And then this type of accident where it's military clashing with civilian aircraft doesn't happen. It's very simple. That's how you fix the problem. They got plenty of places where they can fly and do missions and do practice runs and all the different types of things that they do in the United States military. They don't need to do it in a very congested, high traffic area and be fucking around like that. Because they took out a lot of damn good people out of this world because of that nonsense. And this is the type of thing that needs to stop. And I wish I could talk to Trump, because I'll bet you my life that I could talk him into doing just that. Putting air restrictions, flight restrictions on civilian airports to keep them out. That, I think, is the perfect fix to this. So anyway, guys, that's my 2 cents. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again in the next one. Bye-bye.